So maybe when you wake up in the morning, you want to be able to go enjoy a coffee at a local Cuban coffee shop, or at nighttime, you want to be able to walk out your front door and go to some wonderful bars and restaurants, or you want to live on a canal and just be able to take your boat out to the beautiful sandbars and reefs. It seems to me like a lot of people, when they move to Key West, they want to improve their quality of life. In this video, we're going to be discussing some of the questions you should be asking yourself, and it is right now a good time to buy in Key West, in the Lower Florida Keys. In case we've never met before, my name is Hilaris Gregory. I'm also a licensed realtor here in Key West. I help people buy, sell, invest, and relocate to this wonderful island. My wife Marcella, my daughter Venice, and our puppy, we were all born and raised here in Key West. And please like and subscribe, because I make videos every week of what it's like to live, work, and play here. And stay tuned for the rest of the video. The number one question you should be asking yourself is, what's going to improve your quality of life? What's going to make you happier? People often move down to Key West because they're trying to get away from the winters up north, or they live in a busier area and they want to spend a little bit more time in the environment and spending time outdoors in an area that has much better weather. And what's going to get you to that location? So also, what are your needs? Are you going to need a bigger house? Are you moving with a family? Are you going to have a lot of friends to visit? Everyone that seems to buy a house here always has tons of family and friends that come and end up wanting to stay here for quite a bit of time. The other question is, what areas do you want to be in? Do you want to be able to walk to everywhere that you want to go? Or do you want to be able to ride a bike? Or do you want to have a short car ride? When you live in downtown Key West, you can pretty much walk to everywhere you need to go. There's even a grocery store there, all the shopping and bars and restaurants. You have all these different festivals that are just right in that area. I chose to live a little bit further away from the downtown area. I wanted a little bit of a bigger yard. I grew up in a very small house in the downtown area, and we didn't have much of a yard, but I was able to skateboard over to my friends' houses. But I wanted something a little bit different for my family. I wanted to have a nicer yard, and I still can ride my bike downtown with my daughter. So it is an option to be a little bit further away from all the hustle and bustle, but still have quick access to it. Now, our first house, we lived up the Keys, and we had our house with a canal behind it and our boat in our backyard. We loved it because we were just going to the sandbars all the time and going to the reefs anytime we had any kind of time off, and we loved it. And then once we had our baby, we wanted to be in town, and so we can go to the different park and closer to the schools. And also, our parents both live downtown Key West, so it made it a little bit easier to get help. So the next thing you need to consider is your timing along with your budget. Is it the right time? Right now, prices have come down substantially. We almost put an offer in on a different house. It was just such a good deal. There was different reasons why we decided not to, but right now seems like a really good time to buy. And since these prices have come down, I put one under contract the other day for a client, and we were at the $900,000 mark, and the appraisal came in at 1.15. And that's the biggest gap that I've ever seen in some of these deals where the appraiser overappraised, or the appraisal came in much higher than what was expected. So the next thing you need to consider is how many bedrooms do you need? How big of a house do you need? Do you need a pool? So there are beaches that are really close by, or you can be able to jump in your pool and just go for a swim. Maybe you want to go over to Dog Beach and take your puppy over there and play around with the ball, because you really got to understand what is going to be the best situation for you and or your family. So the next thing I think you want to consider is how you're going to feel when you walk outside of your house. All times of the day, even on weekends. Certain areas of downtown, they tend to be a little bit busier than other areas. So are you going to have booming music that might disturb you? And then also, are there any kind of rentals that are next door that might cause a problem as well? Because most of the renters down here are 30-day rentals, because there's not a lot of transient. The next question you got to ask yourself is, are you going to be doing cash or financing? How much reserve are you going to want to have as far as money in stock market and stuff like that? A lot of people have the ability to pay cash, but they choose just to do financing because they'd rather be a little bit more liquid in case of any kind of turmoil, or just having money, or maybe they need to get a different kind of investment going. Having that cash reserve does seem to be an option for a lot of people that do have the cash. Now, the problem with renting in Key West, the rent is just so high, especially even for those monthly rentals. When you come down, is it better to take the money that you would spend for those rentals and just find the right property and invest into that property? That way, over time, the value of that property goes up. It usually goes up about 4 to 6%, and some of the nicer houses, it can go up to 10%. So what I've heard is that a lot of times when you want to consider moving somewhere, you want to consider where a lot of artists are. And there's a lot of artists in Key West, and there always have been, between Hemingway and then even more local, more recent off artists. And they say that where artists go is a good place to invest. I mean, look at Soho in New York and Nashville in Tennessee. That's where the musicians go, and that place is blown up as far as real estate's gone. Another thing you want to take in consideration is, how is the weather? You know, in Key West, we have sunny days over 300 days out of the year, and that's very important to me. I don't want to be stuck inside all the time when it's raining. In the summertime, it does rain, but it seems like they just have these little squalls and they pass by. When you're on the mainland, like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, Orlando, and even when I was in Gainesville, it seemed to rain all the time, and having those larger bodies of land, it seems like the rain just sits on top there and just dumps, and like sometimes you can't leave your house for a while. It seems to be a little bit of a pain to not be able to enjoy the outdoors, even though it is a warmer weather in the summertime. The other question is, how do you want to get around? You know, if you have your boat in the canal behind your house, you can go out to the beautiful reefs and sandbars and just go do some world-class fishing. And then if you want to come into town, you can ride your bike or take a car. Or do you want to be able to just be able to walk to everything? It seems like nowadays a lot more people can work remotely, and that's really important to them, to be able to work remotely and then walk to the restaurants and bars and wake up in the morning, go get coffee, and that seems to be a great option for a lot of people. So it's very important to figure out exactly what your goals are of when you leave your house. How do you want to transport yourself? Another important question that you need to ask yourself is, do you need really good health care? The hospital down here, I've heard different mixed reviews about it. If you do have major situations, you have to get transported to Miami. So if you do have some health issues, that might be an issue down here. There are some really good doctors. There's a lot of urgent cares. But if you need that really good assistance, is Key West going to be the right place for you? And that's something that you really need to take into consideration. Also, when you move to a certain place or visit a certain place, does the place feel like home? Are they accepting of who you are? It seems like Key West is very diverse. You have all kinds of different people eating dinner together at the same table, and it's not a problem. People are very accepting of everybody in Key West, and I think that's really important, to feel comfortable where you live. So let's say you decided that you wanted to move to Key West or maybe another place. The important thing is definitely get a really good real estate agent that does a lot of transactions, because if you have someone that doesn't know what they're doing, you can have problems throughout the transaction, and they have to stay on top of everybody. They're like the quarterback as far as the whole transactions goes. They have to, ask the right questions when you're at the showing. As soon as I get into the showing with my client, and I ask the listing agent, when was the roof replaced? Has the house ever flooded? When was the AC replaced? Have they had any kind of mold issues? And these are the kinds of questions that not everybody knows to ask, but as soon as you get in there, you have to ask the right questions, and I always ask the listing agent when it comes to that time, hey, is there any offers on the table? Where's the seller at this point? Are they a little bit more to take a little bit lower price? A lot of times those listing agents will give information if I just ask it. So these are the kind of things that you need to understand, that having the right quarterback for the transaction is very important, because if they don't know what they're doing, problems can happen. And it's also, when you do a certain amount of transactions and you come across problems, because there's random problems that can happen throughout the transaction, you have to figure out someone who's going to solve the problems. And I've been very successful at being able to solve those issues, and calming people down and figuring out, because it's a very emotional transaction, and it could be, for a lot of people, their biggest transaction of their entire lives. And you cannot have someone to mess up on that. It's very important. Another good question to ask during those showings or during when you're in your inspection period, if anything that you don't like ends up being a problem, you can back out, like, does it have a termite problem? You can get a termite inspection. Now, the hardwood eating termites, they tend to take a really long time to cause a lot of damage. And the subterranean termites, you can't tent for those. You tent for the hardwood termites. But, the subterranean termites, they come in through the ground, and if you tent for them, they just come right back. And those ones are the ones that cause a lot of damage very quickly. So these are the kind of things that you need to figure out during your inspection period. So something else that's really important is that real estate agent from that area, or have they lived there for a while? Do they know the community very well? Do they know each little neighborhood and know the restaurants that are in that area? That's very important to have an agent that understands the area very well. Another thing is, I think it was 74% of all real estate agents last year didn't sell one property. Now, you have a lot of real estate agents that aren't doing it full time. They just have their license and maybe they'll sell a property here and there, and that can be a problem. But it's really good to find the right agent that knows what they're doing and knows the area very well. So I was really happy. A few minutes ago, I got a call from someone that had saw my YouTube channel, and I was able to answer some questions for them. They were planning on moving here 6 months to a year from now. And, I have felt like Key West has always been a great investment. I've seen these prices. They just seem to keep going up, and it's a great place to live. It's a great environment. I don't have the biggest house, and I don't need the biggest house. I prefer the better quality of life. And if you have any questions or disagree or agree, or please make a comment below. I'll be happy to answer it personally. Also, if you're thinking about making the move to Key West, my contact information is below along with my calendar, and just keep living that island lifestyle.